Hello viewers, welcome to Diagnostics video here. Today we have a 1995 Ford F-Series with a 7.3 diesel. This truck was driving fine before. They parked it here. It had been sitting for about 2 months, and now when the owner got in the truck to start it, it wouldn't start back up. So it was driving fine. They parked it for a while. Now they went back to start it. It's not starting. They replaced batteries. They put new batteries in it, and it's still not starting. So I'm actually at my friend's shop. He called me. He said, Dio, we tried the battery, we checked fuel pressure, we checked some stuff that we think we could check. It's still not starting. This truck is becoming a little bit of a mystery. So they called me because I love mysteries. So now let's see if we can fix this mystery. Let's see if we can find out why this truck is not starting. So we're gonna go inside the car and confirm the complaint. So after confirming the customer's complaint, we're gonna connect the scan tool to the truck so we can see if we have any trouble codes in memory. So let's go inside the truck and confirm the customer's complaint. All right, so I'm inside the car. I'm gonna confirm the customer's complaint. So as you guys could hear, the truck cranks, but it doesn't start. One thing you also want to check when you're diagnosing these trucks, pretty much any vehicle, when you turn the key on, you have to make sure your check engine light or service engine soon illuminates. So just watch over here. It's really fast. As soon as I turn the key on, it's going to come on and go off. Watch that. Did you see that light right there? This light, the yellow light? So since that light is illuminating, it means our computer is being powered, okay? So now let's crank it one more time. All right, it's definitely not starting. So now let's connect the scan tool to the truck to see what kind of trouble codes we have in memory. Let's go to engine. And this has air conditioning. It's a manual transmission with AC. And let's see if we have any trouble codes in memory. Codes menu, memory codes. Right there, as you can see, we have a couple of trouble codes. We have cam position sensor intermittent, circuit intermittent, internal control module keep alive memory, intake air temperature circuit high input, map/BP sensor circuit low input, and then injector control pressure circuit out of range. This is interesting. We have 5 trouble codes. I'm not the codes that I'm kind of interested in is these 2 codes, this P0344 and then this P1280. Okay, so knowing that these are the trouble codes we have, let's back out of here. And I already know the trouble codes that I have, so we can go a couple ways. We can look at freeze frame data to see when these trouble codes set, and so on and so forth. So knowing the trouble codes I have, I'm going to erase them. Erasing the trouble codes is not always the best thing to do, but I'm just gonna do it anyways. So let's go to trouble codes. Let's go to clear codes, and then I'm gonna crank it. As I crank it, we'll see what kind of trouble codes will come back first. Okay, code's clear. Let's exit. All right, so I'm gonna crank it. We still have a crank no start condition. Okay, that's good to know. So now let's bring our scan tool back up here to see what kind of trouble codes came back up. All right, so let's go to pending codes. None of the codes came back up. let's back out of here. All right, so let's look at the memory codes again. And right here we have 4 codes. So I'm gonna focus on these 2 codes first, okay? The P0344 and then P1668. These 2 codes right here, the cam position sensor circuit intermittent, or PCM IDM diagnostics communication error. Okay, so let's back out of here and let's go under the hood. I want to do one functional test, and let's see if we can do an injector buzzer test. So let's go under the hood and see what happens. Alright, so we are here under the hood. As you guys can see, the batteries had been replaced. So this truck has got 2 new batteries. And let's go to functional test. Let's do the injector buzz test. While I'm doing this, we should hear the injector's buzz, okay? So right now, as I was doing the test, this P1668 just came back up, and I didn't hear the injector's buzz. So our injector driver module is most likely defective, or something is wrong with the injector driver module, okay? Because as I was doing that, these injectors should buzz. You should hear buzzing. Usually they all buzz as a group, and then they will start buzzing individually, which didn't happen. So there's definitely a problem there, and the injector driver module sits right over here. It lives here. So this is the injector driver module, and this is the ECM, the engine computer. So if this module is not working, like any other modules, you know, it's a little computer for the injectors, okay? It has a power supply and a ground supply. If it's not receiving power, if it's not receiving ground, it's not gonna work, okay? So the first thing I wanna do is I wanna disconnect this and check my powers and grounds at this injector driver module. But you have to be careful doing that, because the injectors, this driver module sends out high voltage. It sends out up to 115 volts. So before you do that, you have to make sure that you know the wires you're testing. If you don't, you can really get hurt trying to back probe these wires, because the wires that go to the injectors have high voltage on them. So you have to be careful doing that. So we will do powers and grounds here. Before we do that, I also want to scope the crank sensor to see if the crank sensor is producing any signal, because of the crank sensor intermittent signal code that I had when I was looking at the memory codes. So codes right here, memory codes. Alright, so this is what causing the injector driver module to not work. And this here is the cam sensor code. So I'm gonna back probe this cam sensor just to see if we're getting any signal, because if we are not, if the computer is not getting a signal from the cam sensor, it's not gonna command the driver to turn on the injectors, okay? So we need to check that, and then if everything checks out okay, we're gonna check the powers and grounds at that module, and then if everything checks out okay, then we're gonna call the module. Alright, I'll check that and bring you guys back up. Alright guys, so the cam position sensor lives right there, so I'm gonna back probe it. I'm back probing the signal wire, so we're gonna crank it so we can look at the signal for the sensor. So I will connect it back up, and then I'll have you guys look at the scope and see what we're gonna find. I got the scope set up. Let's turn on the trigger here. Alright, crank it. So right there. Alright. So let's go back and review this. So this is a good looking signal. It's a Hall effect pull down design, as you can see right there. So our square wave looks good. we're gonna pass on the crankshaft position sensor right now. I mean, the signal looks good, no dropouts. I checked all the wires. So let's just focus on the injector driver module right now. All right, so right there, here's the signal. Let's go back to our scan tool. Let's try to turn on this. Let's try to do this injector buzzer test again. I don't know if you guys heard it, but the module clicked. So right there. Let me erase this code and see what happens. Let's clear the codes. Again, we already ruled out the cam position sensor issue out of the way. It could be intermittent. Maybe at some point it's not producing a signal, but right now we just saw. Let me show you guys the signal one more time on the scope here. So right here, this waveform looks good, so it should start if that were the issue. So let's back out of here. Let's go to functional test, buzzer test, and you hear the module click. I don't know if you heard that click, but the module just clicked, and when it clicks, the injector here should buzz. And right here, our trouble code just came back up. All right, so we're gonna do powers and grounds on this injector driver module. If everything checks out okay, we're gonna get a new module, replace the module, and this truck should start. All right, again, like I said, you have to be careful on those injector wires because they are high voltage wires. Once we check that, I believe everything will check out okay because this truck has been sitting. It was running before, so I don't think something just went to like chew a power wire or ground wire. I don't know, maybe a mouse. I will check powers and grounds on that module. If everything checks out okay, then we'll replace the module. So I'll bring you guys back up once I get the module removed and the connector taken apart. Alright guys, so it's starting to get dark here. I did disconnect the injector driver module, and here it is. Okay, so we're gonna have to get another module, but before we do that, we're gonna check our powers and grounds first. And here is the test lighting. I already connected it to our power and ground wire. I was doing this off camera, guys, just to speed up the process. So this connector here is the connector for the injector driver, okay, and it had this cover on top of it, so I had to remove this cover. And now with the key on, the test light connected, one side of the test light to this green wire, okay, and then the other one to these two heavy gauge wires are the power supply and the ground supply. So the black wire is the ground, the green wire is the power supply. Okay, here is the connector of the injector driver module. Okay, so with the key on, my test light is lit. So I'm gonna go inside the truck, turn off the key. You should see the test light should go off. So right here, key off, and as you can see, my test light went off. So let's go back in the truck to turn on the key. Right here, key is turned on, and I can already see the test light there. It's illuminated right here. The test light is on, so we have good power and good ground going through the module. So what do you think the issue is, guys? The module itself. It could be a pin fitment issue, but I don't think that's the case here. The problem is just the module itself. So the module went out, guys. Let me show you again what I was doing. So I just back probed these two heavy gauge wires on the injector driver control module connector. All right, and the other small gauge wires, the smaller wires, are the wires that go to the injectors inside the valve covers. Okay, so I disconnected it, back probe these two wires. We have power and ground there. So bad injector driver module. We'll get the module, pull it back up, I'm sure once we replace the module, this truck will start. Okay, so always check your powers and grounds before you replace a module. I will leave it right over here. My friend is actually calling right now to see if we can get a reman FICM for this. I'm sure he will get it, and then tomorrow when it comes in, I will bring you guys back up so we can connect it and start this truck. And again, we checked the cam sensor underneath. You saw the signal. The sensor is producing a square wave, a nice square wave. There was no dropouts, so the signal looked good. It might be intermittent, maybe at some point the signal is dropping, but it wasn't dropping while he was cranking it. So if the issue was just the cam sensor, this truck would have started with the type of signal we saw. All right, so we're gonna wait for the FICM and then I'll bring you guys back up. All right, here we are, everyone. Next day, this is the reman unit we just got from what, AutoZone? AutoZone. Awesome. So I'm gonna install this injector driver module and then we'll start this baby up.
Tanner's not scared of work. He can lay down beside it and fall asleep.
And fall asleep.
You ever heard that one before?
No.
He can lay right beside it and fall asleep. And a thermostat, which is down under there. But there's a shop over, right over in West Virginia, over in Falling Waters.
Yeah.
That specializes in it. The guy's got a BMW. He wants to have a.
All right, guys, it is the moment of the truth. So we're gonna test our repair now. Let's see if we made the right call. I already installed the new injector driver module. So this black box here you see is the reman injector driver module that the owner of the vehicle just ordered. So this is the next day. I was here yesterday to diagnose this, so I determined that this injector driver module was defective. I checked powers and grounds at the module. I determined that we had power and ground here, but this driver, the injector driver, could not energize the injector, so that's why the truck was not starting. So I have the key on right now and I got the scan tool connected to the truck. The first thing I want to do is I'm gonna use my functional test on the scan tool to do a buzz test. So basically when you do a buzz test, you are telling the driver module to fire the injectors. So the injectors will be energized as a group, they will make a loud noise, and then they will be fired individually. So we'll hear one click, we'll hear 8 clicks because it is a 8-cylinder engine, okay? So we'll hear 8 different buzz as each injector is fired by the module. All right, and then one more thing I wanted to say, we did check our powers and grounds. So like any other module, before you replace it, check powers and grounds and make sure it's receiving the right signals before you replace it. And yesterday when I did the same test, nothing was happening, okay? Everything was quiet, we couldn't even hear the buzz going on. So now let's see if we're gonna hear these injectors buzz. We're gonna do the injector buzz test. So right there, they're all being fired as a group. Now let's count 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So they have all been fired individually. So the module is energizing them. All right. And as you can see here on the computer, it says system pass. All right, which means right now this module is doing what it's supposed to do. So it's working properly. So now I'm gonna go inside the truck and start it. Let's see if this truck is gonna start. So right there, I hope you guys can hear that. The truck is definitely running. So right there, guys, the truck is running. What do you guys think? I guess we got it fixed, right? So I'll turn off the engine so we can wrap up the video. All right, guys, so right there, we made the right call. The issue was definitely the injector driver. You saw the buzzer test, the injectors are buzzing now. So the injectors are being energized, so fuel is being sprayed inside the cylinder. Now the engine can run. Okay, so I hope you like this quick one. I hope you like this video. If you learned something, let me know in the comment box. If you have any comments, questions, criticism, leave them in the comment box as well. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, give it a thumb down. If this is your first time here, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Diagnostics. While you're down there, ring the bell so you can get notified every time I upload a new video. Thanks for watching, guys. See you next time.